Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. Gonzo, have you brought your crystal ball?
Always. There's one. It's just out of camera, out of shot. There's always a crystal ball there, which is why I always get all my predictions right.
Excellent news, because you're going to need it today. When we recorded Mugger Tea a few days ago, we asked people for questions, as we always do. The patrons dictate what we say and talk about in the Mugger Tea show. And as it's the World Cup, we thought, there's a couple of good questions there that we could talk about it for 10 minutes. We're going to nick them, make videos out of them. And that's what we've done today. We did it a few days ago with the Mark Noble thing, and we're doing it today with Robert Collison's questions. Would you like to see it, Gonzo?
I would love to see what good old Bob's got to say.
Let's reveal the question, not the crystal balls. We've got, could this be a big year for West Ham in 2023? Does GSB give up the reins and sell up? Does the London Stadium come under full West Ham ownership? On the field, who stays, who goes? Could it be silverware by the end of the season? How do you see the season ending? Glory or glory? So lots of questions, lots of predictions. This isn't what you want to see, Gonzo. This is what you think will happen.
Well, we could have the glory and the gory, Bob.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's you could have a little bit of both. I guess we're going to have to discuss it, sort of break it down a little bit first of all. Any topic you want to start with first of all?
Well, I think so much of what we're going to discuss hinges on whether we stay up or not. And it's not just the glory or the gory bit, the stadium bit, the ownership, the ownership massively. So I think, perhaps start with the ownership, really.
Well, as we know, April is the magic month, isn't it? If David Gold and David Sullivan sold their shares in West Ham today, they've got to give, I think it's 10% of profits to the government due to the leasing contract of the London Stadium. However, in April, that expires. That clause comes to an end. So they sold West Ham, let's say May to keep it simple. If they sold West Ham in May, they keep all the profits. So it's coming up to the magic period. And we've got Kretinsky, when he invested in the club, there was a clause put in there between him and the owners of West Ham United. They agreed a share price already. So there was already a share price agreed there. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that Kretinsky will take them up on that, but essentially the price is agreed. So if he wishes to take full ownership of West Ham United, a large part of the bargaining has already been done. He may wish to renegotiate, of course, but there's already things in place which hint at Kretinsky wishing to take over the reins at West Ham United. I think as long as we stay in the Premier League, I think we'll see some movement. I think we'll see Kretinsky or perhaps business associates of Kretinsky coming on board at West Ham. It may not be fully him, but I'd imagine if anybody else does come in, it will be people that he has worked with in the past or presently works with in other companies, because I guess that's the thing with him, isn't it? He's got fingers in lots of different pies, hasn't he? Sainsbury's, the Royal Mail, big companies abroad as well. I think we'll see a sell of the club. It may wait until the summer. It may be June kind of thing, once the season's finished and we know where we are, because I'd imagine a lot of it will hinge on Kretinsky buying a Premier League club. I don't think he's going to be as keen if we drop down to the Championship.
No, I agree. Let's just bore you all just for a second, which is not a great way to retain you. I believe he's watered down some of his Sparta Prague shareholding. I believe his wife, who's even more wealthy than he is, businesses are doing rather well. I would not be surprised to see him diluting his Royal Mail shareholding somewhat. The industrial action's going to take.
But he's trying to increase that at the minute.
Well,
I think I read an article. It was a financial based one and nothing to do with West Ham. I seen it come up on social media, and it was about this billionaire trying to buy more shares in the Royal Mail, and there was like a kickback. They weren't too keen on it, and I went to click on it, thinking, imagine this is Kretinsky. It turns out it was Kretinsky, and he was trying to increase his shareholding in the Royal Mail, and there was a bit of a reluctance to allow somebody to own so much of the Royal Mail. So I guess we'll wait and see, because obviously since I've read that, it has drastically worsened, if you like.
Well, they've just published a £260 million loss for the last financial year, and they think 100 million of that loss was caused by industrial action. It's not like the trains. You can, whatever happens, if get industrial action on the trains, it doesn't matter. When the Monday comes around, you still have to get the train. There's no choice. Businesses now do have other choices. So if the Royal Mail they will just go to whatever, UPS or whoever else. So I don't know. I don't know that much about it, but I would think that that's an interesting one. I'm also not convinced that David Sullivan wants to sell. So I'll give you two scenarios on this. If the old crystal ball, get to the end of the season, West Ham remain in the Premier League. Kretinsky buys David Gold's shares. There's number one. Number two is that actually none of them, West Ham gets sold and none of them end up owning the club. And actually Kretinsky's just bought his shares to sell on. And actually Gold sells his shares, Sullivan sells his shares, Kretinsky sells his shares, and Trip Smith with his 10% facilitates a totally separate takeover, what we've not done yet. Those would be my two scenarios.
I've got number three, which is
go on.
Which is Sullivan sells up and Gold doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I don't. In a weird way, I don't see why Gold would sell up. He's got plenty of money in the bank. His kids are becoming really successful in their own right away from West Ham. And you get the feeling that there's not much interest there from his children to run West Ham going forward. I've got a feeling that it's almost like, well, why would he sell up? Whereas Sullivan, I think he could sell up and give his kids money and they'd go off and do their own things. And I've got a feeling we might see Jack Sullivan go into football ownership lower down the scale or whatever. But with Gold, I think it's just a case of, well, why would I sell up now? What am I going to do with all the money? I'm past the point, and this is going to sound really harsh, but he's past the point of like being able to spend it and stuff. He's might as well just hold on to it. And well, yeah, I know it sounds a bit harsh.
Enjoy the rest of his life, and what's he going to enjoy more than owning West Ham?
He's not selling up and heading off to Ibiza for a rave up every night of the week, is he? So perhaps his ambition would be, I'm just going to keep my shares in West Ham, and hopefully, if Kretinsky does take over, so we go on and achieve something, and I will be the owner of West Ham United when we win a trophy. That's probably his dream at the minute. So I actually got a feeling, I wouldn't be surprised if Sullivan does sell up, but actually Gold does stick around. We've seen Gold sell some of his shares to Sullivan in the past as well. But I think he might just stay with us, David Gold, whereas David Sullivan, I think, might sell. That's my prediction. My prediction is Kretinsky takes Sullivan's shares and David Gold remains where he is at the helm at West Ham United.
We've covered everything in our predictions, so one of them's going to happen, let's be fair.
Well, relegation then. What's your prediction there? What's your crystal ball saying?
What, will we get relegated?
Yeah. I don't think we will.
No, but we would have to act pretty damn quickly if when we return back to football. Otherwise, it could drag out. Look, when we discussed this, we did our mugger tea, and we were discussing what I think is sort of wrong with the team there. David Moyes needs to address and figure out what's wrong. And if he doesn't do that, and you still see that right back is not sorted out, and you still see Thomas Souček in the team, so midfield is not functioning properly, then you may well find that he might be resolute and he might be loyal. I'm talking about David Moyes here, but he may well manage himself out of a job. It's how long that's allowed to continue. Here's how bad I think it is. I think almost any manager comes into West Ham and they identify those two problems immediately. Right, I'm dealing with that and I'm dealing with that. So if it's allowed to persist, then there's just more and more times when we can't gain any points, then we get relegated. If what happens is it's dealt with very, very quickly. And by the way, he could come back, he could win against Arsenal, win against Brentford, and there's no worries at all. But if we start losing straight away, he has to go very, very quickly. Otherwise, we go down. But I think almost any manager will be able to, within reason, will be able to keep us up.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm basing it on, that we've got a good squad. When I say I don't think we'll get relegated, I don't say confidently, as I would have done a month ago. I would have said it very confidently. Now I'm a bit apprehensive, almost committing myself to saying we won't go down. But the way I'm looking at it is that we've been really terrible. We're still outside the bottom three. Now, we've obviously played a game more than some of the teams around us as well, so you can't. It's not quite a copy and paste. Oh, look, we finished 16th in the league, happy days kind of thing. There's no happy days about it. But I still think we've got a really good squad there and that we will stay up. I don't necessarily think it'll be pretty. I don't necessarily think the football will be any good. I don't think it'll be enjoyable. But I think we've got enough about us to stay up. And I know there's that saying, too good to go down. And I know it's a bit of a myth, but I still believe in 90% of cases it's true that teams are. And I find it funny when people will comment on videos. It's not necessarily the same subscriber doing both things here, by the way, but some people will say, well, look at Leicester. They're too good to go down. They ain't going to go down. Look at the squad. They've got Maddison. But then in the next video, they'll say, oh, but no team's too good to go down. Well, hang on a minute. But people are justifying Leicester staying up because the squad's that good. But yet when it comes to us, it's, well, nobody's too good to go down. So I do think 90% of the time, the teams that are good enough will stay up. I guess this leads me on to my next question then. Will David Moyes be manager of West Ham come the end of the season?
No.
Oh.
No. I can't see it. Otherwise I'm almost arguing with myself there because I think the 3 games when we return are crucial. And I don't think he's got the capability to do it. I don't think he spends the 4 or 5 weeks off constructively. I think nothing changes. I think that the team, we still see those problems, which I alluded to earlier, are still prevalent in the team. I think it's going to be really hard to sit back, which he will do against Arsenal, and keep them at bay there. Arteta looks like he's learnt from Guardiola. I mean, he was a promising coach. People talk about Arteta being a promising coach for years. Like, he learned under Wenger. He went and was assistant manager to Guardiola, and he looks like he's even taken Guardiola's system on another level, if you know what I mean. He looks like he's advanced it a little bit more than that. So there's real innovation there, actually.
Well, yeah, he was playing Ben White right back, and then Pep Guardiola started playing John Stones right back.
Well, yeah, you know what? Well, you know, good for them. But these are real forward-thinking managers. So I think it's really hard for David Moyes to devise a system where we stick 10 men behind the ball, Arsenal don't score, and then we hit them on the break. And compared to what they're doing, honestly, it's like a very modern Formula One car racing against a steam engine. You know, and the steam engine's chugging along, and you know, and the Formula One's got all the aerodynamics and all the everything is all modern and lovely. I think that's what you're dealing with. So I'm not convinced that David Moyes' version of management can defeat Arteta's, because Arteta will know exactly what's coming. There won't be any. Moyes won't be able to surprise Arteta. Arteta will bamboozle Moyes. Moyes won't even recognise what's going on tactically, I think. And then it then feeds into, and it's just as sad as it's got, where we're sort of hoping that we're hoping that Ivan Toney's being punished to give us more of a chance. Not anything we do. We just hope he's getting his bum smacked so hard that he can't play. So that's a bit of a worry. And well, Leeds could be really good on their day as well. Let's not forget that. So I think looking at that, I think if those things happen, and I think there's a likelihood. I think that scenario is more likely than if you have the opposite opinion. Then he goes. And if he goes, then I can't say he's around at the end of the season.
I think he'll still be here. It's not because I've got faith in him turning it around. It's because I don't have faith in the board having the cojones to sack him. If they were going to sack him, they'd have done it by now. This is the best time to sack him during the World Cup break. Sack him. New manager comes in, has a few weeks together, has a January window, and the fact that he's still at the helm suggests to me that they are one of two things: confident he's going to turn it around, or they're okay with steam train chugging along to end the season and staying in the Premier League. I wonder if Sullivan sat there thinking, as long as we're not in that bottom 3, my investment's safe. That Czech guy will buy my bit of the club. I will earn hundreds of millions of pounds. Thank you very much. Who do I trust to keep us in the Premier League? I think they do trust Moyes, and I don't see why they wouldn't have sacked him right now if they didn't. They won't get a better opportunity to do that. I think it would be stupid. And how stupid are they going to look if they keep him and then 4 weeks into the season restarting, they have to sack him? How daft are they going to look that they've decided?
Well, not just daft, if the fans will turn on them. You know, because everyone knows that a bit of opportunity missed. But let's be fair. You know, they've done it before. They also don't particularly care that if there's a backlash from the fans. But I also think that I think they're slow to recognise stuff like that. I really do. And then they'll go into panic mode. So Honestly, I've seen it before, but I did a video, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago. I went back and I did the research on everyone, all their managers, and what they were saying before they sacked them. And they say the same stuff. I went back, even back to Zola, to Grant, to Allardyce, Bilic, Pellegrini, and I dug it out and I did the video, and I actually, I said that this was what they were saying. This is reported from that, and this is like this 5-6 week thing, where they say this manager's the best man for the job and will get us out of it. So I think they can sack him. They really can.
Who do you think they'll get in then, given that you think Moyes will get sacked? Is it Sean Dyche? It's got to be Dyche. I can't get my head away from Sean Dyche being the next manager. I'm convinced.
I think they'll try. Let's not forget, this is really important. They tried to sign Jurgen Klopp, and they really did. Before he went to Liverpool, we tried to sign Jurgen Klopp, right? So I think they'll do something a bit ambitious, and they won't be able to do it. So there'll be someone like that, not Klopp, but whatever, Tuchel or whatever the case, Pochettino, that will fail. And then it's really down to, it depends when this happens, by the way. So if this happens straight, at the end of December, what I'm trying to say is the longer it goes on, the closer it gets to April, the less say they have in it. Because I think if I was Kretinsky, I want to say at this point. Because those days, and I think this is a dynamic that certain people forget. And I understand that they've been our owners for quite some time. Go what Gold and Sullivan going to do? Well, it's not as simple as that. I mean, Kretinsky's been putting people on the board for a little while now as well, and you can't make a decision at the club that costs more than £100 million. That's not just transfers. Any decision that would impact the club in more than that would impact the club in more than £1 million without there being a meeting and a general consensus of it. So actually, they can't just do a Gold and Sullivan and say, do you know what, get rid of Moyes, let's bring Sean Dyche in, which means other people are coming into it. They're going to ask why. They're not going to have this immediate respect and love for Sean Dyche. Kaczynski's not going, I love what old Dyche did at Burnley. Weren't so hot.
But then the CV of Dyche as well, they kept Burnley in the Premier League for numerous years, and this is what we're after. We're after a manager who's going to keep West Ham in the Premier League. And
yeah, there may be that, but they might also look at the fact that actually they looked like they were going down and they got sacked, and then they did go down. So you don't know how they're going to look at it. I really don't. I've been looking at the wrong Burnley manager. Vincent Kompany, as I say, is the one that is the guy. But that's a different thing. That's who I would appoint.
The one curveball, I guess, is the fact the World Cup is on. So there could be a couple of managers unemployed come the end of the World Cup that are good. Funnily enough, Scaloni. You look at Argentina, lost the first game against Saudi Arabia. If they go out of the group stage, which I suspect they'll get through, if they do go out of the group stage, there'll be big questions for him in what he'd done prior to the World Cup, which is 36 games unbeaten. Winning Copa America almost goes out the window to some extent. Well, it doesn't really matter. You failed in the World Cup. Messi's last ever World Cup. You ballsed it up, Gaffer. You're out of job kind of thing. You just never know. There might be good managers out there at the end of the World Cup.
Well, I've got a question for him if he rocks up at West Ham, funny enough. Quite an old question.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You do.
Yeah, I do, yeah. But anyway,
will you instruct your players to kick it into touch?
Absolutely.
In the corner. Right, yes, no questions now. Just save a bit of time. Will we win the Conference League?
Yes.
I think so too. Will Declan Rice go in January?
No.
Will they go in the summer?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions we need to predict, or do you think we covered it all?
No. Yes. They were 2 questions at the end there. You wanted yes, no answers.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's our prediction. We've got the crystal ball out, and time for you guys to get involved in the comments below. Give us your predictions, not what you want to happen, what you think will occur at West Ham between now and the end of the season, and of course with ownership, which may go slightly beyond the season coming to conclusion. Anyway, we're going to disappear now. If you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it. Subscribe to Hammers Chat. And a massive thank you to Robert because, without that question, we didn't know what we were discussing today. We'll catch you in a bit.
Cheers, Robert.